going live on my YouTube.
Hi, Outflow listeners. Welcome back. Today we are crossing the globe to sunny Southern California for a man who many know for his big bass fishing, but we know him over here for his exploits also with big Murray cod. Welcome, Mr. Big Bass Dreams, Aldenai.
Thanks for having me, John. Excited to be here with you guys.
Man, it's a big pleasure, and a lot of guys in Australia probably were following your stuff over the last few years. You know, I found you on YouTube 2 or 3 years back, but a lot more Aussies would know you now for a trip you did down under last winter with some buddies of yours.
Yeah, it's been it's exactly a year since I was down there with the boys chasing my first Murray cod. So getting some flashbacks on my timelines the last couple of days. Kind of bumming me out a little bit because there were plans for me to kind of revisit for my third trip down under.
Yeah, that's such a bummer, man. Like, we should get this podcast out pretty quick. But in case there's any delay, we're right smack bang in the middle of COVID. So, you know, in terms of the timestamp, no one's doing a lot of traveling right now, and international planes, you can forget it. I'm actually meant to be in southern Oman right now, and that just is out the window. So bummer for you, man. Last year when you first did that trip, we're going to jump around and do a lot of talking and exploring around both bass and big bait fishing, and of course Murray cod, because a lot of our listeners are Murray cod guys, but first and foremost, they're lure casters. When you first did that trip last May, there was a lot of eyes watching you, man. Do you realise how many people were intently seeing what Oliver and I did down under? Did you feel the pressure?
No, it's always kind of surprising in the aftermath. Going into exploring these new fishing cultures, which you guys have several of your own, I really don't know what to expect as far as the existing community and how they would engage with what I'm trying to do, with what we're trying to do as a team down there with Big Bass Dreams Australia. You never know until you do it. So going in, being in those remote locations, trying to document my firsthand experiences, really none of that was in my mind, to be honest. Like, I was focused truly on just trying to catch the biggest fish I could, and as you know, that takes a lot of focus.
Yeah, man, that's regardless of the species, that takes, you know, all of your mental energy and willpower for a fish like Murray cod, which can be incredibly temperamental and lockjawed. You know, you've multiplied it by a factor of many, in my opinion. From our perspective, when you came down under, it was very much like, oh wow, here comes Oliver down under fishing for our Murray cod. You know, we I guess we kind of loosely know how you fish in a way, you know, without being on the boat with you, but, you know, having watched a lot of your vids, there are a lot of people who are like, yeah, it's not going to work. He might be able to catch big bass, but, you know, watch cod chew him up and spit him out. But man, you guys hardcore proved that way wrong. It was a very successful trip from an outsider's perspective watching you.
Yeah, it was really special, and after everything that I've experienced, even after the last couple of years, including some of the international travel and diving into different fishing cultures like muskie fishing, right? The fish of 10,000 casts, big European pike in Spain, the Murray cod, barra fishing last, I guess that would be going into your summer.
Yeah.
I still feel to this day Southern California trophy largemouth fishing is the toughest thing to do consistently. And unless you've actually experienced that, you can't understand it. So everything else after that, as hard as it is, and that Murray cod fishing was incredibly challenging, like, we still were able to find success because I'm used to that kind of adversity and those low odds and maximizing very slim potential. And it's crazy because
it sounds like your pedigree.
Yeah, it's right up my alley.
Is perfect for it.
Absolutely. So it's just like any sports, right? You tend to perform to the level of your competition and in your environment. So when I come from this extremely pressured fishery with small bodies of water where literally the same people are going around these small dams, as you guys like to call them, and just pretty much taking turns on the 5 spots in the lake and throwing everything in their tackle box at them. Like, those fish become really conditioned really, really quickly, and you got generations of these fish that have been submitted to that, and you have to be on your game, man, in the smallest details. And like, they are everything, the most subtle nuances. So when I go explore a new fishery like trophy largemouth or smallmouth fishing in the northern part of the states, or muskie fishing in the Midwest, or Murray cod fishing down under, it's really a lot of the same things. And if I'm catching one trophy largemouth a week here, like, I'm doing really good. So the fact that we went down there and spent, I think, 12 or 13 days in a row hunting these things, and between the 3 of us fishing our butts off from sun up to sundown, we averaged just under a fish a day. But I forgot what the number of meter fish that was. I think it might have been 6 or something. Plus all the sub meters. It seems like it was easier than it was, but it really wasn't.
I don't for a moment put it forward that you had a hot bite and you had it easy. That's not ever going to come out of my mouth for one moment. A fish a day, if we're talking about something with some quality behind it, is an enviable record. If I look back on some of my trips to the best dams in Australia, Copeton Dam is a place with a famous reputation over the last decade. It's been the hot dam. You know how some waterways will have a boom period?
Absolutely.
Copeton has definitely had that. And a trip up there, if you come away with a fish a day, you are stoked, man. You've crushed it. So for you to slide in from another country, and I know you've got some good heads there, Cal and Josh, and with Jacob Crow as well. They're good guys. They know their stuff. But you still have to, put your swim bait out there and do the right things and get a bite, man. It's really enviable. So, I think you without harping a point too much, you guys and yourself especially probably earned a stack of respect for your efforts, man.
Thank you. And really, at the end of the day, as long as I can earn that respect from all these different fishing communities, man, that's the highest praise and compliment that I could hope for. I mean, it's almost as cool as the actual fish catching experiences themselves. It's for sure, man. As far as outward accolades, the acknowledgement of other anglers that, hey, that guy can fish, it's about as good as it gets, really, I reckon. Yeah, in our world, and even here in the States, like, I don't really care if someone doesn't love me or like me, but if I have their respect, like, we're good, man. Like, it's just, it's all I can ask for.
Yeah, you definitely won't get everyone liking you. We know that.
Never.
I love the way you deal with haters, man. It's very funny.
I've always, it goes back to that conversation about my environment and how I grew up. All right, I grew up as an undersized basketball player, and was, people used to love talking shit to me. So I love talking right back. But you learn this fine line of backing up what comes out of your mouth, and you got to have a little gift for gab. And I've always enjoyed it as another challenge. Like, okay, you want to battle wits? Let's do this. Like,
yeah, I'll take you on head on. The fact is, you've got a pretty good basketball game. I've seen some vids that you've posted from time to time. Chump on the court.
Oh man, I tend to be a jack of few trades because I don't want to be a master of none. Right? So,
yeah.
I could score a basketball. I could stop most guys. My jumping and my quickness is gone now in my older age, but I can do that, and I can catch a fish. So
Yeah.
not very much else I'm good at. Bowling, billiards, darts, snow sports, none of that. Like, I'm terrible at all of those things
I thought
because,
you were about to claim all of those things.
oh
I'm like,
man,
wow,
no, I
the
guess.
hidden secrets of Oliver. Has bass tournament fishing ever been part of your game? Like, I know it's not now, and I'm sure you know all the guys. I watch a bit from now, time and again. I get on little YouTube watching sprees. I watch a lot of the stuff from the guys that aren't tournament guys. You know, the guys that give away a lot of info and intel, like, you know, the tactical bassing dudes. But then I'll find myself watching tournaments, and of course we've got Carl, and love to watch Carl Jacobson. But I've watched a lot of the old stuff like KVD and Iconelli. I actually read his book, like, seriously 20 years ago.
Wow.
And Chris Aldane, I love watching him. I think that guy's got a serious game. The tournament scene's never been your thing, or was it? Have you ever? I don't know.
Okay, that's a great question. Well, yeah, I'm a part of this generation that grew up watching uh, bass fishing content through TV, magazines, and really back in those days, like really the 90s, the only way to make it in fishing was to become a pro angler and a pro tournament angler.
Mm-hmm.
So that has always been something that I've wanted to do, and you'd see that throughout much of my early fishing career. I fished every level: club tournaments, local team tournaments, local like pro-am tournaments. But as time went on, other avenues of opportunity started opening up, namely social media, and like having the freedom of these platforms to tell whatever story I want to tell has completely changed my life. So I no longer needed to become a tournament angler to make an impact in this culture. And I think that's the unique part of my story. However, I am also that kid that loves being driven by having a chip on my shoulder, and there's still enough murmurs in the background from people that don't think I can do it, that may push me over the edge and have me compete with the boys on the higher tours, or at least try to. So
Oh man, I'd love to see that. It's obviously got to come within the desire to do that. I'd love it. That'd be
yeah,
awesome.
it's just tough because there's an opportunity cost involved, right?
Oh yeah,
So
big one.
like my time is my most valuable commodity at this point in my
Mm-hmm.
life, and has been for the last few years. And how I choose to spend it is the hardest decision that I have on a daily basis. So I can spend a year like I did in 2019 and try to scratch off these adventures and experiences of a lifetime, and that's going to be a tough year for me to beat. Uh,
Mm.
I went and did a lot, saw a lot, accomplished a lot, but I wouldn't be able to do that if I was going to focus and really commit myself to competing at a high level, because like those guys are the best in the world. You can't come at it half-assed. You'll get your
No.
butt kicked. Like, you have to hope everything lines up, and hope and do everything that you can within your means not to blow any potential opportunities that come up. Like, the margins of error are so slim. I got good mates of mine that have missed the Bassmaster invite by one spot and
Yeah.
haven't got close since. It's a tough thing to do. So if I were to do it, it'd probably take a 2-3 year commitment, and man, that's a lot to ask of me right now, because like I can go do whatever I want.
Yeah, you're in a pretty enviable and unique position right now in your, I guess, your fishing career, man. It's a left fork in the road that's going to change things forever if you do go and commit that for a few years for sure.
Yeah, so it's always on the table, and the timing of it has to be right. It's got to make sense on fulfilling my own personal goals, and competing at that high level and winning at that high level has definitely always been one of my goals, especially because of the generation that I came from. But at the end of the day, is that more valuable than some of the really rad stuff that I've been able to do the last 6-7 years. Like, I don't know, like maybe in the eyes of somebody else, but to me right now, I'd have to still say no. And then the last few years that have kind of gone by with changes in the fishing industry and the culture of the tournament scene and the shifts with new platforms like Major League Fishing, and now we're dealing with COVID. So if I had committed to chasing that last year and actually engaged in that in 2020, I'd be sitting with my hands, like sitting on my hands and doing nothing, like all the guys waiting for some kind of clarity on some kind of schedule and the logistics of it all. So in hindsight, man, I'm glad I didn't make the jump the last couple of years.
Yeah, that'd be a huge bummer, wouldn't it? Like the prime years of your life, you want to put to the maximum use, whatever that is, whether it's adventure traveling, doing the things that drive you and ignite you, versus, perhaps say this other challenge. What you don't want to do though is waste it to do. That time is so precious.
And that's probably the most underlying message, or important underlying message, that I try to convey through all the content that we produce here, is that, man, you guys, I hope you guys realize that life is short. And I think you're seeing a little bit of that mortality now worldwide. And hopefully it brings a little perspective so that everybody can, stay on that positive vibe and really try to experience special things and live those dreams, man. Don't be scared, but you just got to be smart about it. People take time for granted way too much. Even in my own circles, it's like, it's already May in 2020. Like, what have you done?
So true, man. So true. Like that conversation around tournament fishing is an interesting one for me. I really love the concept. Like, I watch it, so I'm giving up my viewing time to watch some of this stuff. But to do it, there's an element that doesn't gel with me, because so often I see tournaments run, or the hours are non-perfect times. They're on bad moon phases. They're daylight only type events. They're running all weather, which of course you've got to, unless it's a safety factor. Whereas a part of my mind wrestles with, I want to catch the trophy fish, so I need to fish this moon phase at this time on this lake, not when the tournament tells me when to fish. And the other thing is, I like to get away from people when I fish, not be part of a flotilla that's bombarding the lake trying to catch the biggest fish to win. So it's a mental challenge for me to get into that. It really is.
Yeah, I think all those factors that you just listed are really important in painting the picture of the context of why tournament fishing is still important to this day. Right? They were the validating force behind a lot of the principles, behind a lot of the fishing techniques and concepts and lure making and just technology in our game, because those guys are fishing for their livelihood at the highest level. And I feel like in today's fishing world, too many people are oblivious to the impact and importance of that high-level competition fishing and the service that it provides our culture. And because they may not be getting the most attention from the masses anymore, it seems like it's not as important to way too many people, and that bugs me a little bit, because they're digesting and ingesting content on all these platforms, but like misconstruing it as having relevance and importance.
Okay.
There's no filter anymore for content.
Yeah, good point. That is tournament fishing in that level on the decline. Is it? I kind of picked up something there.
I'm sorry.
You there, bro? Yeah, what I was just saying was, is tournament fishing on the decline, or the popularity of it?
I don't think it is overall. I just feel like the perception of its impact is on the decline.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Not so much the testing and proving ground that it was probably relied upon to be for so long. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so your big bass journey, not so much the tournament angler, but a guy who goes out and throws big baits and sometimes, often enough, catches, very big bass. Where did that come out? It's a very Southern California thing, I feel.
Well, it kind of developed organically, really. And my fishing character arc, started at the very bottom. My very first fish was a bullhead catfish, like one of the least glamorous fish species we have in North America. And to a 10-year-old version of myself, I didn't care. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I actually went out there and caught a fish. But then it became our panfish, bluegill, red ear, crappie were the next level. And then after that, it was learning how to catch trout in the wintertime, and then catfish in the summertime. And, I saw these guys on my local lake, and man, these guys got a little bit more swag to them. They got a little bit more confidence, a little bit more style. And they were the bass fishermen. And even the guys that walked the bank, they didn't have to have a fancy bass boat, but they were just different. And these fish they were catching were bigger than everything that I was catching. So I was like, man, I want that. And then all of a sudden, I became aware of all that content we talked about, and that influence of becoming a tournament angler was the only option. So I started, having big tournament dreams and wanting to do that at some point in my life. So I started trying to, catch the 5 biggest fish I could anytime I went out. And I was really focused on getting as many bites as I could and just catching as many fish as I could. And that went on for years and years, trying to put together a good tournament bag, and creating these situations in my mind, and trying to put myself in the shoes and the mindset of a tournament angler or a multi-day event, because all of that stuff was really out of my reach, man. I came from a really humble background, right? It was just me and my mom's. She had no money. We had no money. So I didn't have a lot of resources at my disposal, but that lack of resource really taught me how to become resourceful. So I'm thankful for that. But I really just learned everything slowly over the course of an incredible amount of time on the water. And that's something that's hard to convey to the audience now. It's if you want to be good at something, you have to spend a lot of time doing this. And eventually I got tired of catching 2 and 3 pound, 4 pound fish and feeling super pumped when I would catch a 5 pounder, because that's above average. And I'd see someone, or I'd see these local guys that were trophy hunters as I was growing up, and how they were doing this consistently was just beyond me at the time. So I paid almost no attention to that, or very little attention, because I couldn't afford to buy the big reels they were using, the saltwater rods they were using at the time, the $20 to $50 swim baits that were available at the time. All of that was out of my reach. But a $4 pack of plastic worms or a $5 crankbait was within my reach. So I really just let it just develop, man. And as I caught more fish and got more proficient at different techniques and catching more fish and doing well in these club tournaments and stuff, I kind of just got tired of it and got burnt out. And I found myself being more rewarded with that one bigger 5 to 7 pounder than I was catching 50 dinks.
Yeah, and catching big fish is its own intrinsic reward. One big fish every so often becomes so much more important than catching, say your 5 every time you go out, doesn't it? When you get that trophy hunter mentality.
Yeah, and that once that light switch was turned on, I couldn't turn it off for probably 6 to 8 years. I literally fished all of my local lakes year-round with a big bait. All the big baits at the time, I spent an incredible amount of time with them and trying them in every situation that I could. Every way you could imagine fishing a particular swim bait, I probably tried it, or at least the ones that I could come up with. And that experience of all of those failures, because that's what most of that was failure, is what taught me to identify windows of opportunity now. And I can go out fishing with a plethora of rods on my boat and know when I should put down the regular, traditional technique, and pick up this specific big bait for this specific scenario because I have all of those years and hours of experience to build this gut instinct that I have. And really that transferred to the Murray cod stuff, because at the end of the day, those are still big, conditioned, hard to fool fish that respond to many of the same factors that our trophy largemouth do. I mean, fish are fish.
That's so true, man. And I definitely want to focus in a moment about the some of the similarities and contrasts between the two species in your experience. But there's one little thing you said a moment ago that I resonate with so much, and it's the craft that you build up if your eyes are open and your mind's alert through the years of fishing, say the same species, doing a variety of techniques, trying different things. It's that's the stuff you can't learn on YouTube. That's the stuff that simply, it's an old phrase, but time on the water gives you. And there's no substitute for actually fishing and trying to nut something out and learning from your experience. And some of the richest rewards for me are when I look at a weather situation, a lake, an inflow, I do all the math. And my fishing buddies, we chat about this endlessly. It's like, hey, we've got to hit it here. The right conditions are here. And if you go to the spot you think it's going to be, and you pull it off, that is worth so much as an angler, in my opinion.
Oh, it's everything, man. And I hope that our viewers, especially on the YouTube platform, are taking the info that we're giving them and really using it as a foundation and a jump-off point to where it gives them enough confidence to go out there and attempt it, and then see for themselves whether or not that fits their style of fishing or if it's something that they can add to their game. But create your own style and your own philosophies through your own experiences off of it.
So true, man. And a lot of people put out their theories that their experiences have taken them to that point, and they're happy to share it. And that might be their truth, but it just might not be yours. There's no substitute for your time, your brain working, and you forming your own theories and beliefs and values around fishing. This is what fishing's about, in my opinion, man. Not just catching fish.
The learning part of this whole game and piecing the puzzle is what it's all about for me. It's mentally stimulating more so than anything else that I do in life, except maybe basketball, because those factors are always changing depending on who you're playing. But the learning and the puzzle piecing and the decision making is ultimately what makes all the difference, because every little thing that you're doing is a decision that you have to make, whether it's the type of knot you tie, the size of your line, whether or not to barter with Oliver and getting rid of your black jungle ogre. Like, those are all decisions we all have to make, and they never end. And the fish that we end up holding or not holding are a direct reflection of those decisions. So I think that's the fascinating part. And even recently I've been fishing with one of my really good buddies here in the States, more than I had since we were kids. And he's one of the best fishermen that I know, like bar none. His name's Johnny Nguyen, and you'll see him a lot in our content on both the Big Bass Streams YouTube channel and my personal YouTube channel.
I've seen him for sure, yeah.
Dude, the dude's a fishy bastard, man. And, in certain things, he's so much better than I am. So I'm always, like, open eyes, open book, like, open mind, and taking what he's got so much confidence in, but also at the same time making sure I take a step back and observing through my own perspective and seeing what I can take from him and add to myself. And if I see any weaknesses or opportunities, I share that with him. And we're really good at, like, not getting too butthurt at each other and letting our egos get the better of ourselves. Like, no, I'm the man. Except I do pull this is my boat, my trolling motor, card on him quite a bit. Like, sorry, buddy. At the end of the day, I earned the right to make these decisions. But I think it's really important for everybody to stay flexible, because we can continue to learn from so many other people. And I mean, gosh, this guy was showing me how he loves to straight wind and slow wind or slow roll a jerkbait. And he catches a fish doing it, and I'm just like, all right, would have never tried that. I guess I'll have to try that next time these fish are lethargic. So it's fishing is a beautiful thing, and the fact that it is an ever-changing puzzle. Because as you know, you could think you figure them out and go back out and face really similar conditions and find the exact opposite as far as results. Like, what just happened? And those cod are probably the worst at that in my experience.
Man, in Lake Eels, my local lake, and I've fished it for. It's not a look. I've fished it since my childhood, but fished it properly over the last, I think, 8 years. And there was a point. There's been 2 points where I thought I had it nailed, and I'm bordering on that arrogance again now. But I won't let myself because I've been so humbled by in between.
Yeah, the fish will be the greatest bringers of humility every time. And those cod, I try to be as precise and methodical and scientific in my approach. Because I was like, guys, I was telling Josh and Kel, bro, I'm not down to wake up at 4 a.m. in the dark every day and fish until 8 p.m. into the dark every day. I got to back up footage. I got to recharge batteries. I got to still run my brand. I still got to manage this, that, and the third. So I was trying to wear it down to the, 4 to 6 hour windows where I can be super hyper focused on trying to catch this giant freshwater fish, but also attend to life. And that's how I approach everything here when I'm in the States. When I'm bass fishing for largemouth or smallmouth or muskie fishing, I've got those things fairly well figured out to the point where I can spend those 4 to 6 hours out of a day on the water when I feel like I need to be, get the opportunities that I need to hopefully capitalize on it and create the content that we share, and then still run everything at the same time. And that didn't happen with the cod, because when I went back in the summer, we spent a week fishing for them, and you guys haven't seen any of the content from then yet because we were still trying to get through the content towards the end of the trip from my first go around. But if it wasn't for a 4 hour window, we wouldn't have caught jack for a week. We hammered 9 fish in 4 hours, including a meatery and a couple 90s, and it was pretty obscene. And then the conditions really didn't change, or at least we didn't think they changed. So we thought we were gonna whack them again the next day, and it didn't happen. It was just
that's Murray cod fishing for you right there. The effort you can put in, I think, when you are trying to work them out and trying to develop your own theories, you can't beat the hours on the water, those extreme hours. And for me, if I'm doing cod fishing the way I feel it should be done, if you're really trying to chase that trophy fish, it'll actually involve 3 to 4, maybe even 5 some days, efforts around what you see will be the opportunities for one of those bite windows. And when I go away, it can be literally, all right, we're going out for this 3 or 4 hour period because of the mathematics say in my mind that this will be the time. Then you're off the water trying to get some sleep, then literally you've just got to sleep, and then you're back up again doing it. And it's a fatiguing, taxing thing. It doesn't have to be done that way, but it lends itself to that so much.
Yeah, and, especially for someone like me who literally has never traveled further from home to put myself in that situation, and who knows when I would get another opportunity to do this again. So, we went at it full bore, balls to the wall, for 13 days straight, and doing exactly what you're talking about, fishing all day long, and being so exhausted that as soon as you hit that sleeping bag, your eyes are shut and you open them again and it's time to go. It's man, I feel like I just fell asleep. And doing it 12 nights in a row was wild. But what other activity could you spend that much time doing and have that perception of time go by so quickly? Because those are probably some of the 13 fastest days of my life.
I was talking to Cal True a while ago when we swapped over those rods. You and I obviously swapped a couple of swim bait rods for the listeners. And Cal came to my house and we had a chat and we were talking about your trip. And he said to me that, when he finally got you on the plane and you were heading back to the US, he did not want to look at a fishing rod or consider fishing. He was burnt, completely fried from the effort you guys had put in.
Yeah, we definitely burned the candle on both ends. And I think, what did I do? I came home and had a little bit of a mini break, but really there is no break for me, really. I'm either fishing to capture the content or trying to process the content to get it out to everybody so they can hopefully share some of these experiences that we've been lucky to experience. And I'm still behind. I'm still not through the entire September through December of 2019, and even some of the stuff in years past. So it's always a struggle, and it takes a really special kind of person to be able to subject themselves to that kind of mental and physical fatigue. And Murray cod fishermen, or fishos as you guys like to call yourselves, are really similar to muskie fishermen and are very similar to trophy largemouth fishermen, because we are gluttons for punishment, because there's such a high involved in the successes with these low percentage fish, and it makes all of those hours and days of struggle worth it to me, at least, and a few of the select few in all of those fishing cultures.
I want to zone in now on some of that you're talking about. So over here, being a Murray cod fisherman my whole life, but not always a lure fisherman. There's an evolution, I think, that you go through, probably, that begins with bait with a lot of people. It certainly did in my case, in my generation. But once I found lure fishing, there was no other kind of fishing as far as I was concerned, and that really hasn't changed. But all the cod lures, to reflect back now, were basically bass lures.
Right.
Everything is. Its origins are unquestionable where they've come from. So, and clearly, those baits work. The techniques have got a direct correlation. From a guy now that's caught bass at their biggest and cod at their biggest, because you've nailed the 120 on your first solid effort at them, which is a considerable achievement for any cod angler over their lifetime, let alone a guy that flew in and had a sustained 2-week crack at it. I'd love to hear your perspective, and I'm sure the listeners would too, around both the contrasts with largemouth bass fishing or the fish behavior and the comparisons.
Man, at what level? There's so much we could, discuss and compare and contrast. Really, I find them to be quite similar. I mean, the biggest difference probably is that they are a river fish, and they love that current because largemouth tend to like still water. Our smallmouth are more the river fish. You do obviously find both in all of those environments, but learning how to more effectively target river systems and moving water systems was big part of my learning curve. And I think some of the smallmouth stuff that I've been doing, and some of the musky stuff, because they're also river fish originally, has really helped my cod fishing and identifying, where I need to be casting to these targets and how to present these fish. But at the same time, I feel like the door is wide open on your cod fishery, because there's still so much yet for all of us to learn in regards to how to catch these things. I feel like I just scratched the surface on ways to catch them, and I don't know if you had seen that video where Cal follows up a fish I had follow a topwater bird lure all the way to the boat, and got it to engage and eat literally at the boat, almost right at the rod tip. But they had never considered that those fish could be catchable. And from my muskie fishing perspective, and even actually I caught a lot more largemouth bass literally right at the rod tip, because that fish is so focused on the lure that I'm able to continue to keep their engagement and focus on that lure and end up catching them, like boat side. When a lot of guys will just kind of freeze up and just get caught up in the moment and just stare at this giant fish like, oh my god, this thing is crazy. And I'm like, what are you doing? Keep moving that thing. Like, you can catch that thing. Like, so, trying to provide new perspectives and applying them is probably the most fun I have. And finding those similarities is really pretty easy, honestly. Because, like I said, they're kind of just like a big, fat, largemouth that doesn't jump.
Mm.
So that changes things. Right, it changes the mechanics of how we fight these fish. It changes the tackle that we use. I see a lot of guys tend to overdo some of the terminal tackle, especially like on the hook end. When we've had a lot of success in my experiences with thinner gauge hooks that get better penetration, and at the end of the day, for their size, like they don't pull that hard. So we can make adjustments. Right, versus like a 80 centimeter barra is straightening out stock hooks. So it's just understanding the little technical things about that fish and making us more efficient, so that when we do get that one bite a day over this 12, 13-day adventure, we maximize it and hook it. Because there were times when we didn't hook these fish. Like I was experimenting with new baits, hook styles, and learning through failure, unfortunately, because we were getting 3 to 5 engagements from these fish a day. We just happened to land one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably relatively not uncommon to have that level of, engagements, raised fish versus bites. Sometimes you raise them and don't get a bite, and then that bite's a conversion rate. And I find especially so on top water, the conversion will be lower. It's just a fact. What's a good conversion? I think if you're bringing to the boat 1 and 2, you've done well.
Wow.
Done really well. That's a high conversion in my opinion.
Awesome.
So if you were heading to a Murray Cod Lake, or in contrast, a trophy bass lake in SoCal, are you looking for those fish in the same places? Are you expecting to find the fish in the same points or drop-offs, or is that kind of behavior the same?
What's interesting about like that fishery you're talking about, Eildon, is as we pulled up and I'm looking at this launch ramp and this marina, I felt like I was in Northern California.
Right.
It sets up just like our drinking water reservoirs or dams here in the States. So I felt very comfortable. Like it literally looked exactly the same, except the fish that you had were a little bit bigger. So we did find success in parts of the lake that I normally would be targeting for a largemouth or a smallmouth on my home waters.
Yeah, that's cool to hear from my perspective, because one day I want to go and target bass in the US, and to know that some of your knowledge is quite relevant going over there. That's really comforting from my perspective.
Yeah, I think you'd be pretty surprised at how similar our fisheries in the northern part of California are to those fisheries there.
Being a guy who studies the game and watches a lot of YouTube clips, there's one thing about bass that I feel is a contrast is with our cod, is the schooling aspect of the fish. It's a much less common situation for cod to school. There's definitely schooling aggregations that do occur in the spring when making babies is on their mind, but it seems to be a more common everyday aspect with especially largemouth, from what I can see.
Yeah, I don't remember or recall seeing groups of cod on either one of my trips down under. So that is definitely a little bit of a contrast, because the largemouth, even in their upper sizes, will school by size on our fisheries.
Yeah.
They're not big schools. It could be a group of 2, it could be a group of 5, maybe a dozen at the most. Depends on the fishery and what kind of forage comprises their main diet, and the terrain, the topography of the fishery itself. Big smallmouth can also group up pretty good. And anytime you find that kind of schooling behavior, your odds go up because of the competition factor. So unfortunately, we never got to experience that with the cod, where those fish are now competing with each other and probably more aggressive than they normally would be as a solo fish.
My experience of cod when they are together will be generally on a key piece of structure where you will have the biggest cod holding the best spot, and then the other fish that might feel they could use that as home, but they'll be well away from the dominant fish, being incredibly territorial. But they might find a home on the mid branches or the outer limbs, perhaps. Definitely not the prime spot. So it's not. So, I don't think that's like cohabitation. It's more a case of this is the best hotel, and I'll keep away from you, and you keep away from me. Has been my observation, because you can definitely catch more than one cod off a key piece of structure.
Okay.
The time I see them school is in spring, before they pair off and go and do their thing. There's definitely a communal thing. I've got sounder screenshots from Eildon where we've got a dozen big cod on the screen. Like it is the spot where they're working out who's who, and but getting a bite in that scenario is a whole other matter too. They're definitely not focused on eating.
Gotcha. Yeah, when you see literal teeth marks and jaw prints on a 1.11 cod, like, what the hell tried to bite this thing? It's
right.
it's pretty wild, man. You guys, I really hope you guys appreciate the fishery that you guys have, and for how special it is and unique it is. Because when I've been showing this stuff to people in our part of the world, they're just mind blown. Like, that's a freshwater fish. I'm like, yeah. And we catch them with bass techniques. Like, they can't even process it.
I think that appreciation is a growing thing, and cod fishing has, over the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, I don't know, hard to put an exact time frame on it, has gone from strength to strength. It's a really key part of the industry now in terms of raw sales. If you went back a decade, it was more about the hardcore guys that just always did it. But cod fishing is growing at a very strong rate. And the thankful thing here is there's always people coming into this corner of the sport, but you've got fisheries management who recognise their value, and the amount of effort they're putting into habitat restoration, water quality improvement and stocking is mind-blowing. Like the number of fish that get put into Eildon every single year, ensuring the next generation, is so good. Like, that might change because the whole global economy has got the biggest shake-up it's had in our lifetime right now. Money might get a lot tighter, but the money that's been thrown into fishing in our home state of Victoria is mind-boggling over quite a while now.
Yeah, and I'm going to go on a little bit of an old man rant, because I'm like that old head now. And I've been around this game here in the States for quite a while. And fishos over here in the States have a really kind of selfish mentality that's been kind of ingrained into us at an early age. And I've spent this much time on the water learning this lake and learning how this spot is higher percentage than others. And now that all these new people are getting into fishing, that's impacting me personally on my body of water. And there's like this weird energy towards new anglers when us experienced guys honestly need to take a step back and realize that without the support of the numbers being represented by these new anglers, like those programs that you discussed down under, the programs we have here in the States, like, those are going to go away if there isn't support and if there isn't growth in our sport and in our community. So stop being a selfish prick and just be cool, right? And if you're any good, like you think you are, you should be able to catch them regardless of how much pressure your body of water is getting. That's something that I continue to have to show people. Like, you don't think everybody's trying to duplicate everything that I'm doing here on my home body of water in the middle of LA. Like, good luck, go out there and actually make it happen. Like, I welcome the challenge. So, long story short, welcome this new energy and influx into fishing, no matter where you are, because you need them. You need these new eager green people to embrace this sport to the same level of passion that you have, in order for you to fulfill your own selfish desires to keep catching these fish.
Man, what you've just described is the same in Australia. It's no different, and I think cod guys are probably among the best at being that person.
I was already picking up on some of that here and there, and I was like, I know this.
You're right, man. The way I see it is, for me personally, like, I sell fishing to tackle. I need people fishing. But I'm also a person that likes to actually help. I like to teach. And, whilst I think I know a little bit, I don't know it all. I'm never going to profess that for a moment. But I like to share what I know and give people my thoughts and views and techniques. We put that out through the YouTube channel. I do fishing talks. The only thing I don't like to do is tell you exactly where I feel you should go. I think that's an experience that people should learn. There are avenues to be shown that if you want to employ a fishing guide who will, probably take you to some of his A spots, mostly his B spots, and, you'll have success.
That's right.
But for me, working that out is a personal experience that is being shown isn't the answer. That's my take on it.
Absolutely. I'm with you, man. And, as a person who gets bombarded with messages daily across various platforms, like, the worst question you could ask me is where?
Yeah.
That is the worst question you could ask anybody, because that should be irrelevant. And I think we tried to portray that to the best of our ability through our Big Cod Dreams series, and showing people that, look, we jumped from body of water to body of water to body of water and found success. And we're not chasing what somebody else is doing to find it. And once you figure out that it's not about the spot or the location, it can be the most empowering thing in this fishing game and unlocking this puzzle, because that is how I live my life. Like, as I go explore these new bodies of water and try to catch them in different ways than anybody else has ever caught them, like, there is no blueprint, there is no other bite for me to chase. Like, I have to go out there and figure it out on my own. But the road that it took for me to be able to have that kind of confidence from when I started as a 10-year-old amasses a very long span of time and experience. So just understand that if you really want to be that good at something, there's no shortcut.
No, there is not, unless you've got, I guess, very deep pockets and plenty of coin, and you can employ fishing guides to take you all over the world, and that's got its own reward. But I don't think that that's the intrinsic thing that people are looking for. It's like, say you're a hunter, you go to Africa and you shoot all this big game on the savannah with a professional guide, versus working something out in your own backyard and hunting that whitetail or that sandbar deer under your own steam. To me, you can't compare the two. It's the value in what you achieve versus what someone else put you onto is what I'm getting at there.
Yeah, and I think it's important for us to clarify, like, who we're speaking to right now in this dialogue, right? I'm speaking to the guys that want to live a lifestyle similar to mine, right? Not the working professionals that don't have the luxury of all this free time to invest, right? Those are two different people. Like, it's not realistic for a lot of my clients on my personal training sessions, for example, to go out there and put in that kind of time, because their time is too valuable. Like, some of the net worth of some of the people that jump on the boat is pretty incredible. And it's just like, is that worth chasing this big fish and learning the hard way over a span of a lifetime? Probably not. Because I would like to be financially secure at some point in my life too. So, if I were at that level, I'd be like, bro, you've got this thing twisted. But the fishing and the experiences are my primary focus. So everybody else, out there, because I mean we're speaking to a small group of people within the community. Don't feel ashamed, or don't let people berate you for utilizing people that offer guide services or training sessions or instructional courses, because not everybody's story and situation is the same. All right, and here in Southern California, there's a very, very strange culture of being shamed because you hired a guide. Like, oh man, you had to hire a guide. Like, man, that's pathetic. It's a very strange thing, because they kind of like just broadcast that net to the entire population. It's like one thing if you want to become a something in fishing. It's another if you already are a someone or something in another space in life, but love and have a passion for fishing.
I don't disagree with that one little bit. They've both got awesome value, and I'm a guy who travels to a lot of countries to go GT popping, and it's physically impossible for me to go to those places with my own boat and do my own thing. It cannot happen. So your only option is to jump on with an operator, someone that you trust and hopefully vibe with, and it's got its own value and worth to yourself, and that's what matters. If other people want to judge that, they're going to judge that. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and there's another lesson there, right? Like, who cares what anybody thinks at the end of the day, guys? Go out there Murray cod fishing, regardless if you catch them or not, regardless of your mates, ribbing you and busting your balls for not catching anything 8 trips in a row. Like, who cares? Like, what does it really matter? Like, fulfill your own goals, embrace the struggle that it will probably take to fulfill them, and just have fun doing it. I think at the end of the day, some of us in this like very unique group of trophy fishermen, whether you're largemouth, cod, muskie, or whatever fisherman, like just get too caught up in some of this stuff. Like, bro, it's just fishing at the end of the day. Like, nobody.
Yeah, exactly, man. The donut trips, as we call them, I don't know what you call it. I think you call it skunking.
Yeah.
They make your success sweeter. If it was easy, I defy that you would keep doing it personally.
No, it wouldn't be special if it was easy. That's honestly kind of part of my struggle showing this adventure to our American audience, because they see all these videos and they're like, oh man, it's as easy as me booking a trip into Melbourne and then hiring somebody to take me out, and I'm going to catch a foot-long fish too. Like, no, you're not. And you've seen that across several, YouTube creators that have tried to go down there and catch these cod, and I don't know if any of them have found any success. Like, it's not easy.
I know one of them. I think you might not know him. He's from down Florida way. I think it's Lindsay Lawson. He's come down twice to Copeton. Admittedly, it's been very bad timing on both occasions, and he's done 2 full trips, hasn't caught a cod yet. And he's been in good company. It's not as though you're fishing with hacks. It's nothing to do with that. In really good company. It's just sometimes dead set hard. That's the reality.
It really is, and as a creator and a content generator, it's tough to paint that picture without losing the attention of our audience, because everybody's attention span has shrunken dramatically.
Well, yeah, that's such a good point. I watch a lot of Meat Eater, Stephen Ranella.
Okay, cool.
And that guy's capacity to capture my attention as he tells a story on a hunting trip where they don't take a shot. Try and translate that into a fishing video, and I don't think you'd have a lot of viewers. It's all about the action. It's about the gratification of catching a big fish. It's such a different story. But if you're living it, it's the same in my opinion. But it's hard in fishing to make content around not catching fish.
Yeah, it's something that I feel like even our audience takes for granted. Like, holy crap, do you guys understand what it took to capture this shot that you guys just watched? Like, you have no idea. And
right.
That's an interesting thing that you brought up Meat Eater, because I'm continuing to work with them. We're actually supposed to shoot a new episode for their fishing series, Das Boat. I was actually supposed to shoot it in like 2 weeks, but because of COVID, everything's been pushed off till later. But I've been studying them as well and trying to become better at that storytelling without the successes or those highlight moments that the fishing world seems to rely on so heavily, at least through our platforms, because we've tried showing them more long-form content with deep information like we're doing here on this podcast. And it's just like very few people are willing to sit down and sift through it. The ones that do are the smart ones, and they pick up a ton of insight from it, but they're definitely not the majority. They're by far the minority.
Yeah, I think there's so much digital content out there, now as to how much is uploaded by the minute to something like YouTube. I'm trying not to be critical of the audience because it's what captures your attention, what keeps you there, and usually it is action. To be honest, or unless you've managed to gain some form of popularity in its own right. But yeah, that meat eater format for me, I'm happy to watch a show. I'll sometimes watch 2 or 3 episodes before I go to sleep, and I'll watch Steve, just talking about life as he's looking through a spotting scope, man. And I find it captivating. He's such a good storyteller. It's a hidden talent.
No, it's a gift for sure. It's one I wish I had.
Yeah, it's a skill. I really look forward to when you do that with those guys, man. I'll certainly be a watcher of that, I promise.
Yeah, I think our episode in season 1 was episode 4. So that's
okay, cool.
YouTube channel.
Keen on that. So, real quick, well, it mightn't be quick, but on your trip down under, your first one, which was focused purely on Murray Cod then, from what I could gather, you fished Eildon, you fished Lake Mulwala, and you certainly fished the Murray, both in the Upper Murray and Lower Mid-Murray regions. What are some take-home things for us, that you took out of that we might be interested in, something that maybe we're not seeing?
Yeah, just the amount of diversity represented in those specific bodies of water should really open up everybody's eyes to like, holy crap, there's probably a lot of potential fisheries and locations that nobody's explored or talked about. So don't be so hyper-focused on where people are catching fish now. Like, go take a risk and put in some time and effort. Go exploring. Like, man, those fish lived in such a wide variety of water conditions and climates. It's like, where are these things not? Like, does anybody fish that river? Does anybody fish that? Like, no, we never fished that one. Like, there's just too many to fish. So don't be so caught up on chasing the hot bite or the fishery. You might find a better one that nobody even knows about.
Yeah, that's a fair call, man. We used to drive past Eildon a lot, to drive 16 hours to Copeland Dam. And I've done 6 trips up there. 4 of them produced, good fish. One of them was an amazing trip. I think we caught 23 cod. 2 of them were donuts. We drove 16 hours, spent a week fishing or 5 days fishing and didn't catch fish. We were driving past Eildon every time to do that. And I'm not saying I'll never go to Copeland again, because I'm sure I will. But I've decided to invest far more time being on the border than driving. And it's paid off. It's already paid off in the winter we had last year. What's in there? Let's invest some time and they're not easy, they're difficult, but let's put the investment in, and I'm sure we'll get rewarded eventually. And that's happened.
That's awesome. And this is something that I talk about in my seminars, or talks as you guys call them here in the States, is like when I travel to other parts of the country, people think what I do is limited to Southern California or the West Coast or now Texas, because we've done it successfully in Texas. Anywhere but where I am. It's a strange mentality that the grass is greener on the other side. And I gotta look them straight in the eye and be like, what if I told you your grass was greener? Huh?
Yeah.
I just towed a bass boat literally across the United States to come fish your backyard. Do you think I would do that if it was that much better in LA?
Yeah. Yeah. There's always that, I think, dream with anglers of finding the unpressured fish. That's probably the one thing that does draw me. Like, there's big fish in a lot of locations. Like, sure, some are better than others. You've got the right ingredients for growth, which, aren't everywhere. But finding fish that haven't seen a ton of lures, like some of your trophy bass lakes, that's an alluring thing. That's like, what do you mean? These fish haven't been pressured. They haven't seen every swim bait that's known to man. Like, that's attractive.
Honestly, that's kind of how I felt on all of your bodies of water with the baits that I brought in my backpack.
Yeah.
And what was, unknown to those fish and your fishermen as your cod fishing culture was just brand new, and like some of the engagements that we got, I think, reflected that. And man, it could be as simple as changing your tactics on a very heavily pressured body of water to elicit a whole new response from an entire population of fish, because those are things that I lived through here in Southern California, and as I travel the country here in the States, is every time I show these fish something they haven't been bombarded with, I've done well. Like even my muskie fishing as a parallel of that. I really devoted my first good block of time from July of 19 through September to strictly trying to catch a trophy muskie. And in the muskie world, a 50-inch fish is like a meter caught. Right? So
yeah, okay.
Time. And
the benchmark.
Right, the benchmark. And at the end of it, like using techniques that I was comfortable with and making some adaptations to the terminal tackle and the fact that these things have teeth and bite you off if you weren't using the right stuff, and the rods and the rigging to accommodate that kind of stuff. Like I ended up with a 53, and a really big fat 53 too. And I know very, very accomplished muskie fishermen that have been chasing still a 50 their entire lives, and they're sitting there, initially looking at me and my little California, techniques and ideas like, nah, that's not going to work, dude. Just throw this double cowgirl bucktail. Throw this Medusa. They're the 1-2 punch in the muskie world. So I'm coming into this scenario like, so let me get this straight. Every single muskie fisherman I talk to keeps telling me to throw the same two things. It doesn't make any sense for me to do that. And for me, it didn't. And those other techniques that I attempted to use outfished everything else throughout that entire adventure.
What you've just described to me hits home so hardcore with my beliefs around Murray cod baits. Dirty water is a different matter, but for the most part, I fish impoundments, which have got generally better water quality and visibility. And the 1-2 punch in Murray cod fishing is a spinnerbait, or what they call here a hard body, deep diver, crankbait. Variations on a theme, but you get what I'm saying. For me, when I look at either of those baits, they don't swim like a fish.
Right.
They put out vibration, they put out flash, they create a presence in the water that could elicit a response from, oh, that might be food, I'll eat that, to that pisses me off, I'm going to whack that. Who knows what the fish is actually thinking at the time. But I've really taken this approach over the last few years. No matter what, these fish have got to eat at some point in today or tomorrow or when it might be. Put something in front of them that looks like a fish, that looks like something that they have to eat. If it's a roach in that lake, or it's a redfin in that lake, or in your case over there, bluegill, or whatever it might be. If you put something in front of them that looks like that and acts like that by virtue of the lure maker's skill and your skill as an angler to translate that down the line, it's the law of averages say that has got to get eaten at some point. And I can't move past that. And I think it's really important, especially in a pressured body of water, because if they've seen a ton of spinnerbaits or a ton of bucktail jigs in a musky lake, they might just pass that up because, I know what that is. Whereas if it's a fish, they've got to eat.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a reason why certain baits continue to work, even in heavily pressured systems, no matter what the species is.
Yeah, because it's a fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, you make an income stream from a number of ways, but big bass streams. You've got Big Bass Dreams America, and you've obviously got sub branches in a number of countries now. The one of interest to us is obviously Big Bass Dreams Australia. You want to tell us a bit about that, man?
Yeah, if you guys haven't already, we actually did a Big Bass Dreams podcast on my YouTube channel, which is just Oliver and I on YouTube, and it's featuring Josh and Cal True, who are heading our Big Bass Dreams Australia division. And really, these groups and like sub-factors of Big Bass Dreams are just extended family. Right? We've all got the same kind of mindset, same appreciation for what we feel is important in this fishing culture, and trying to do our best to share the best parts of it to the overall audience, especially even outside of fishing, right? Because we all have friends and family in our circles that don't have the level of passion we do, but we want to show them insight into this beautiful world of fishing and hopefully spark interest for them to join in and become a part of it, or at least be appreciative and respectful of our sickening passions for catching fish. And it's really humbling for me to see people latch on to what we're trying to do here in the fishing space. And really, it's not a clothing brand. Some people think Big Bass Dreams is an apparel brand. It is not that. The Big Bass Dreams project started as a movement through film that validated some of the crazy stories that I was trying to tell people that I was living. And that is still what it continues to be on a fundamental level. That is our foundation, is capturing those special moments to be able to share with others, to hopefully bring some positive vibes and some insight and help the audience fulfill their own big bass dreams, or big cod dreams, or big muskie dreams, or big pike dreams, or big yellow belly dreams, whatever it is.
Yeah, I get the philosophy fully, and it is a movement, and I guess in terms of like income streams, the apparel that springs off to the side of that isn't why you created it, but it's like in the end, if you create something cool, people want to rep it. That's where things naturally go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's my hope that by being myself and the brand being represented by people being themselves, that their organic passion and love for the game will transcend anything else, and people are going to want to latch on and feel proud to be representing the movement through merchandise, through their content, through a shout out, through a hashtag, whatever it may be. And it's a really special kind of thing, and I thank everybody worldwide for embracing us, and I thank everybody else that has been hating on us even more so, because you guys are the ones that really drive that chip on my shoulder and really give me the feel to keep just shoving it in your face. And I'm going to do it with a smile, because I'm having the time of my life, and seeing the hundreds and the thousands of people that have literally been impacted positively by the stuff that we've been doing is more than anybody with any negative energy could ever affect us.
And doing it with that smile on your face in the time of your life, man, that would be driving the haters crazy.
Oh, that's the best part. It's the best part.
Like I said at the start, I love the way you deal with them, like people that troll you. It's like,
Hey,
so funny.
You know what? And to be fair, it's not too late, guys. Like a lot of people have reached out to me like, "Hey, man, I don't know why. Like, I've never even met you. I've never even spoke with you. I was just hating on you. I was just trying to be funny. Yada yada yada. Whatever the excuse is or the reasoning was, like, we can still be cool, man. Just show a little respect. You come at me with an energy. That's the energy you're gonna get back. That's kind of basic human, nature. Like, if you're gonna come at me twisted, I'm gonna respond to you in a, different fashion than if you show a little respect and want to have an adult conversation about anything with me.
You don't have to like everyone, but respect is pretty easy to show. Is my simple philosophy on things.
Absolutely, it's not that hard.
No, man, you've been really generous with your time, and I'm conscious of that, and I'm also conscious of I got to get to work at some point. I've got 10 questions that I want to run past you. Cool. They're kind of short answer.
All right.
If you're up for it, you may not have expected some of these, perhaps. Let's get going. So the first one, it's an observation of mine, and I won't be the only one that thinks this. How do you get so many hot women to fish with you?
Just trying to be better at fishing, right? Fishing never stops, whether they're in the water or they got two legs. It's a lot of the same philosophies, guys. You got a big cod sitting on a lay down and everybody can see her. Don't be the first one that runs up on her and plops your lure right on top of her head. Have a little bit of finesse and some tact. Draw her out from the cover. Everybody loves the chase. You just got to be better. Don't just have some game. But that comes from experience too. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. Some of this big bass dream swag acts the same way as a little, willow leaf vibration. Your chartreuse skirt just catches their eye, and then the rest is on you.
So good. All right, man. You're the big bait specialist. Do you ever fish a worm?
All the time. Live and plastic. So you talked about your fundamentals growing up and how live bait culture was a big part of your upbringing. So it was in mine. And, even this weekend we were catching big red ear sunfish, which are kind of like your yellow bellies, except ours don't get to 20 pounds. A really big one is over 2 pounds. And we're catching them on mealworms and chunks of nightcrawler. And most bass fishers here have skipped that. So they don't even know how to, rig them or catch them, and to me it's like the most basic fundamental thing. It's like making a layup or a free throw in basketball. It's like, how do you not know how to do that? Like this is what I grew up on. As a young bass angler, the plastic worm was my steez, man. Texas rigging it, Carolina rigging it, split shotting, nobody does that anymore. But a plastic bait in all of its forms, I feel extremely comfortable and confident with.
You're more than just a big bait fisherman. You're an angler, for sure, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's many dimensions to fishing, clearly. All right. How important is coffee in your life?
Quite important if you actually watch the Big Cod Dream series, especially those early morning segments, and especially when it got cold in the wintertime, right? I'm complaining to Cal, like, hey, man, can we get another coffee, please? I need it. Yeah. I'm not a morning person. Not a morning person. I'm usually up working late. I need my sleep. I go pretty hard when I'm awake. So if I have to wake up early to chase a bite window, if I don't have coffee, it's going to be a rough day, and I'm a whole different person. Ask anybody close to me.
I got to follow up on that. Are we talking espresso or an instant or a Starbucks? What kind of coffee?
I typically like just like a drip or a pressed coffee most of the time because I can sip on it, right? Especially if it's cold. Kind of keeps my mind off of being cold. But drank plenty of espresso when I was in Italy with the Big Bass Dreams Europe boys. I'll drink it if I just need a real punch. Here in the States, I'll drink instant coffees, which what we were drinking down under if I have to. But yeah, coffee in all its forms is great.
100%. I got a couple of SoCal questions for you. Have you ever owned a Prius?
I have not, but I've driven them.
I think that'd be unavoidable, wouldn't it? All right, another SoCal question. When was your last juice and cleanse?
My last what?
Juice and cleanse.
I've never done that.
You're breaking all the stereotypes, man.
Yeah. I'm pretty
All right.
even keeled, so I don't feel like I really need to like juice and cleanse. Like,
Cool, that's good to hear. What is your favourite thing about Australia?
how much time do we got?
You got not long.
Man, besides the rude tackle shop owner and this C word of a lady at a gas station, I'm gonna have to say the people. All right, those are two.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, you guys are rad. You guys have this energy about you guys. You guys love having fun. You speak a whole different language of English, which we find fascinating, especially the further I get away from the big cities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, and you guys have been welcoming with open arms both times I've been down there. And through all the content, I get a ton of messages from Australians, and it's really cool, man. So thank you guys for that.
That's cool to hear. Big tip for the people. Now, is there something about Australia you didn't like?
Ooh. The biting bugs up in the Northern Territory? That sucked.
Oh, did you get the midgies?
Yeah, got bombarded by the midgies. Having to take a dump over the side of the boat with the fear of a salty coming up and grabbing me.
That's real. That's real.
That really was. And it was hard to convey in content, but I was literally scared shitless.
Because everything I see about your alligators, man, they're pussies by comparison to saltwater crocodiles.
1000%. 1000%,
Yeah.
man. Other than that, I mean, not much. Food was like, maybe I wasn't shown the right places to eat by the boys. Who knows?
They're country boys, man. They're from Shepparton, you know.
I don't know. Cal's kind of a city boy now.
Yeah, he is true. Yeah, he is. He's cultured these days, right?
Yeah, he did actually show me a couple decent places in the city. So, to be fair.
Yeah, to be fair.
Yeah.
All right, you got one choice for the rest of your life, man. Is it basketball or bass?
Well, knowing as I'm already declining in my step and my physical ability, I'm pretty sure I can maintain the fishing on a much higher level for a much longer period of time. So I'm going to go with fishing.
Smart man. You have one bait for all fishing for the rest of your life. What is it?
Ooh. For all fishing?
All fishing. You've got one bait. Endless supply of it, but you've got one bait. What's it going to be?
That's a tough one.
That's what we do on the Outflow.
For all fishing, I can probably catch everything on a nightcrawler or a piece of it.
Yeah, right.
Everything.
I didn't expect that, man.
Literally everything. Carp will eat it. Like, everything will eat it.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. Interesting perspective.
And
what is the... Go on, sorry.
And I could probably use one of those giant Australian earthworms or night crawlers, right, to coax a Murray cod. So that still falls within.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Earthworm.
I've caught plenty of cod back in the day on earthworms. They love it. They spend a lot of time grubbing, man. They really do.
Dude, where do you find those giant 8-foot freaking earthworms down under?
They're in really specific patches of trees. Like if you find the spot, with the right conditions that they like, those scrubbies as we call them, they'll be in numbers.
Wow.
But where they're not, you won't find one. And you know, it's a specific kind of soil content and moisture content where they are. But yeah, they're amazing, aren't they?
Man, they're so cool. Does anybody ever use them for bait, or are you allowed to? Is that a thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely you are, yeah.
Oh, sorry, boys. We're next time I come down under, we're doing the scrubby challenge.
Big scrub worm dreams. Here we go. All right, what's the best trick in Oliver Nye's bag of tricks?
Best trick. Man, that's a complex question.
I think I know the answer, but I'm waiting for you.
Oh, okay. I'm kind of curious to hear your answer. My bag of tricks. What's my go-to? I guess it depends on the situation. What's the challenge? What am I being challenged with here? You got to set up the context.
Well, in terms of like when you're on the lake, what's the thing that sets you above anyone else? I think it's your attitude.
I would have to say being observant on top of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like it.
If I'm not being observant to the current conditions and fishing in that moment, in those conditions, I'm not being as strong mentally as I think I am. Because that mental attitude is a big part of my approach.
So true, man. I find one of the biggest challenges is to stay focused within every cast. That is a unique discipline to be able to do that, but helps you not miss bites if you can do it.
For sure.
Final question for you, man.
Okay.
What's the one thing that Oliver hasn't done, but he absolutely has to do in his life?
Man, I've been really fortunate to live a special life already thus far. And the crazy thing is that I feel like I'm just getting started. And the things that I've been able to accomplish would have seemed so impossible to me in the past, especially if you asked a younger version of myself. I really don't know. There's so many, and not one thing over another really sticks out in my head. And if you want to talk about fishing related, gosh, it literally ends with the species list, right? Like if it swims out there, I want to catch the biggest one. And as far as life is concerned, I don't know. I mean, that might be deeper than most of the viewers are willing to dive. But
there's definitely some Papua and black bass somewhere in your future. I know that much.
Oh, 1,000%. They're definitely top 10 on the list.
Yeah, there's something about that fish, but it's a difficult thing to access. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the fact that you mentioned that it's a difficult thing to access makes it that much harder to achieve and makes it that much more special. So.
Yeah, and you know, you get together the $10,000 that you need to go and do a trip, and you get some rains that ruin the rivers, and you might still get a fish on the troll perhaps, but your dreams of a fish on the cast probably just went out the window, and it's going to be a long time till you can do that again. That's one of the tricky things about something like that.
For sure,
man. Man, this has been awesome. Thank you for giving up an hour and a half of your time. I think we're definitely probably going to have to run 2 episodes on the Outflow. But man, is there anyone before we sign out here that you want to thank? Anyone you need to acknowledge? Or
I want to thank every single person that has ever pushed some kind of positive energy my way and towards the team and supported what we're trying to do here. We've got a long way to go yet as a group and as a brand or whatever you want to call Big Bass Streams, but we couldn't have gotten this far without countless thousands, hundreds of thousands of dope people out there that continue to flood our lives with positive energy. So I want to thank everybody that has ever hit the like button, ever left a nice comment, ever DM'd me, ever emailed me, ever just mention what we were doing to one of their mates or their family. Like, check this out! Like, this is so cool! Like, thank you guys for that. It means a lot.
Yeah, man. That's cool. It's the thing about someone who's got like a base like yours. It's all about people, man, for sure.
For sure. Without that base, I can't do what I do.
Yeah, that the fishing stops, which we don't want to happen.
Nope, not at all.
All right, so Oliver, you're on both in terms of your own platform, Oliver and I, but Big Bass Streams, we've got Instagram, we've got YouTube, we've got Facebook. You're also on Patreon?
Yes, yes. So, Patreon is a unique platform for me in that, I feel like as a fisherman, especially the last several years, I've opened up 1,000-fold versus the secretive trophy angler that I was. But I still feel like there are lots of those little, secrets that you're trying to pry out of me that can be shared with people that support what I do on the highest level. So if you want to deep dive into techniques, you want to be able to reach me and ask me any kind of question as it relates to fishing, or maybe even building your presence in this fishing world, Patreon is the best platform to reach me directly because those guys support me at the highest monetary level. They're going to get my attention first and foremost. They get precedence over everybody. And I do my best to try to get back to everybody, but man, it's hard. You see it, when you're trying to do things along the lines of what we do, John. Like, there's just not enough hours in the day, bro.
No, there's not, man. There's so not.
Yeah, so if you, as the audience, if the audience has a real value for any of the creators that you guys enjoy and want to support, dude, just keep in mind, like, nobody that puts this stuff out has to do this. Their time is valuable. And just let them know that you appreciate their time and their energy, and that'll go a long way.
And it can be as simple, man, as a like or a comment on your material that can, on some days, just make it seem worthwhile that all the hours and effort that you're putting in is actually meaning something, and not just what am I doing.
No, because I sit here almost every day and ask myself, what am I doing?
Yeah. I'm having a good time, but what am I doing?
Yeah, totally. It's been
working your butt off is what you're doing.
Yeah. That's the story nobody wants to hear, right? They just want to go and have the fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for your time. We'll wind it up there. We've been going for an hour and a half. Oliver, it's been worth getting up early for this chat, man. You've put out a vibe and a positivity that's infectious, and what I see on the socials and YouTube is who you are. So, man, thanks for being who you are, and thank you for giving up your time.
Cool. I appreciate having me on here, and looking forward to coming back down under at some point and continuing to chase those big cod and barra, maybe an Aussie bass.
Yeah, why not? If you haven't done it, we'd like to see that for sure. Man, see you when travel can happen again, and all the best. Be safe.
All right. Thanks again.